US Defence Secretary Pete Hegseth has said that Iran's new supreme leader is in hiding and wounded. It comes as the death toll has now climbed above 1,300 as the conflict in the Middle East continues, while shipping through the Strait of Hormuz continues to be severely disrupted. The US and Israel continued to strike Iran's missile and drone capabilities. Iran responded again with drones and missiles towards Iran and its neighbours in the Gulf. Israel struck buildings in southern Lebanon and Beirut and dropped leaflets encouraging an uprising. 6 US service members died in a refuelling aircraft crash in Iraq. As fears over oil prices continued, the US said it would temporarily lift some oil sanctions on Russia.
Projecting force, the USS Gerald Ford, the world's largest aircraft carrier, at the heart of the war against Iran. The planes that fly from its deck need refuelling high above the Middle East to keep the strikes going. But one of the tankers doing just that crashed in Iraq.
The incident occurred over friendly territory in western Iraq while the crew was on a combat mission, and again was not the result, as CENTCOM has said, was not the result of hostile or friendly fire. We're still treating this as an active rescue and recovery operation. As CENTCOM announced this morning, 4 airmen have been recovered, and the Air Force and U.S. Central Command will provide updates as information becomes available.
The Israeli military is projecting force too, massing at the Lebanese border. Its chief of staff warning that the operation there will not be a short one. Words that will offer little comfort in Lebanon, where Israeli strikes have killed almost 700 since Monday and driven 750,000 from their homes. But no country has been hit harder than Iran. On streets that have been struck heavily and repeatedly, it's Al-Quds Day, the annual show of solidarity with Palestinians. A woman was hit by shrapnel in the vicinity of this rally. She is among almost 1,400 civilians killed in Iran since the conflict began, and even the new supreme leader is thought to be among those wounded.
We know the new so-called not-so-supreme leader is wounded and likely disfigured. He put out a statement yesterday, a weak one, actually, but there was no voice and there was no video.
The US is facing its own pressures, though, on the oil markets and in the Strait of Hormuz.
The only thing prohibiting transit in the Straits right now is Iran shooting at shipping. It is open for transit should Iran not do that.
It's an observation that few will find surprising, but the situation has nonetheless prompted Washington to ease sanctions on Russian oil to keep global supplies flowing. Edmund Heafy, RTE News.
And our reporter Yvonne Murray is standing by now in New York. And Yvonne, we saw Pete Hegseth speaking to journalists there. Are we any clearer on what America's aims are here, or indeed how long the war will last?
I think actually this week, Tommy, a clearer picture of America's war aims has emerged in contrast to last week. And the aims, as far as I can see it, are 3 main things. Destroying Iran's nuclear program, degrading its ballistic and other missile capability, and also regime change. Now, on the first 2, I think given America's overwhelming military hard power, they are actually potentially achievable. But they have, of course, been somewhat surprised by Iranian staying power. On the third thing, regime change, I think the Americans are now perhaps beginning to realise that the Venezuela-style decapitation that they had in mind is not taking place. And I think we're beginning to see that this is going to be a more protracted struggle. The regime has shown itself to be a system that is countrywide and that runs deep. It's also a very repressive regime that doesn't necessarily answer at all to its own people. Very different to the United States. And I think here in the US, the US administration is seeing the rising fuel prices. They're seeing the mistakes being acknowledged, like the bombing of the girls' school in Minab, and also the coffins draped in stars and stripes coming back to the US. All of that is adding pressure to the US administration. which will be looking for ways to disentangle itself. No way of knowing, of course, how long that will last. But just say one last thing, Tommy. The US President Donald Trump is due to travel to China at the end of this month. If you believe the American foreign policy establishment, that is the relationship they care deeply about. So all eyes on that in the next couple of weeks.
All right, Yvonne Murray in New York. Thanks indeed. Now, at least 2,000 people are estimated to have been killed since the war in the Middle East began. Rising fuel prices have forced the US to temporarily ease Russian oil sanctions, leading to significant concerns in Ukraine. The US government remains defiant, but has this war been a miscalculation by the US president? To talk about the wider geopolitical consequences of all of this, we can speak to Assistant Professor in the History of War at UCD, Dr. Edward Burke. And thanks indeed for speaking to us on 6-1, Dr. Burke. It would seem today, at least, that Russia is the big winner here. Its strategy of supporting Iran has worked.
Absolutely, they are. This is a major strategic gain for Russia, and obviously the news today that sanctions are going to be eased when it comes to Russian oil exports means that they're going to add billions of dollars to their war chest against Ukraine, and they've had to give nothing in return for that. So this is a real strategic error and incoherence by the United States. They had just been putting pressure on India and other consumers of Russian oil to adhere to sanctions and to shun Russian oil imports, and now they've had to completely reverse that course. So it's really strategically incoherent. It's very damaging, and of course Russia is the victor here, as indeed is Russia's a major supporter, China.
Yeah, the Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky reckons that this could add about $10 billion worth to Russia. The pause in sanctions is in place for 30 days. There's no guarantee, though, is there, that it would be lifted after that? It may have to continue if energy prices continue to soar.
Absolutely. Ultimately, the US administration has been forced to acknowledge that this is a spiraling global economic crisis, and something had to give, and that was sanctions on Russia. So this is disastrous for Ukraine. Meanwhile, we also have the US rapidly using up large amounts of very expensive munitions, not least interceptor missiles and other air defense capabilities that they have in the Gulf. This is at an alarming rate. We'll have to see in terms of the munitions that otherwise might have gone to Ukraine, whether there'll be a long-lasting effect and how that will manifest itself in the battlefield then.
The US administration is defiant and adamant that it is achieving its war aims. Others, however, would disagree. I wonder, would the likes of the Pentagon, would they not have played out a situation like this? Would they have known that these military strikes, which were launched about 2 weeks ago, that they could have ended up in the situation we are now in today?
I think military planners will be cognizant of the potential for Iranian resilience and Iranian reach in the region as well as within Iran itself. However, I think that there was some hubris in the White House. I think they mistook what occurred last summer in terms of the Iranian response to US and Israeli strikes. I think the Iranian regime showed some restraint there. They were trying to de-escalate. They reached out to Qatar and others to de-escalate the situation. I think that was mistook for weakness and vulnerability, when in fact Iran has since used that time, the intervening months, to really sort of come up with quite a coherent plan, quite a clever plan to use technologies such as drones, Shahed drones, to combine these with ballistic missiles and try and swarm US and Gulf air defense systems. And that really is a lot of learning from Russia. Russia has learned a lot since 2022 in terms of how to use drones and how to swarm air defenses in Ukraine. And there's a huge amount of military cooperation, indeed some intelligence cooperation between Russia and Iran. So they mistook weakness for vulnerability when in fact the Iranian regime has proved to be far more resilient than the White House had planned.
And do you think President Trump was hoping for another Venezuela here, that basically the supreme leader would be replaced with somebody who was more malleable for the US?
And again, yes, I think he was and he still is. And that's a fundamental misreading of this regime, both in terms of its ideology and its strength, not least in terms of its paramilitary forces, not least in terms of the religious ideology that underpins its extremism. And so this is not something. This in no way resembles Venezuela in terms of the type of regime infrastructure and extremism, and indeed the networks and strength that they can call upon. We've seen escalation in Iraq this week. We've seen violence breaking out. We've seen targeting both from paramilitaries within Iraq, targeting the United States, and we've seen US strikes in Iraq as well. We've also seen accounts that the US may try and arm proxies in like Kurdish militia in Iraq. Meanwhile, we've got an escalating situation in Lebanon. So we're seeing a horizontal escalation of the conflict here that the United States is not able to control.
And no clear end in sight. We'll leave it there. Dr. Edward Burke, Assistant Professor in the History of War at UCD. Thanks indeed for joining us on 6-1.